Going live, going live, going live. It says I'm live. I must be live. According to that, I am live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It is 10:32 p.m. Japan Standard Time. And welcome. I noticed the audio on the videos from last week was a little bit, although it's got like the what do they call this little shield protector thing? I was talking like directly on top, so I was enunciating onto the mic a bit much. And I do see it redlining. Although people always say that my mic is too low. I think people's volume is maybe a little bit too low, but in fact, yes, this won't trigger a technical issue at all. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit so it's not redlining. I just want to try to fix that. And I've just fixed up the mic setup so it's like pointing towards my face. So I'm actually talking into the pop filter. That's what it's called. Oh, now wait a minute. What's happening there? There is a problem. It's not capturing the screen. Why isn't it capturing the screen? Okay, I've got to fix that. While we do that, please say hello amongst yourselves. Butter. Indeed, butter. What happened? Airstream. Okay, I think I see the problem. Boom. Boom. Should be showing. Let's move it up to the top. Oh, it is showing. Okay, there it is. Boom. So, yes, anyway, good to see everybody. I'm going to say hello and, yeah, we'll go through it. I actually do not have a lot of stories. I've been watching Olympics, so I haven't been tweeting very much. Few things to talk about, I suppose, and of course, as always, you can ask me for topics, ask me a question, ask me to talk about something. As you know, I chase squirrels all day, so yeah, you can just by @marking Hiko Simon. You don't actually even have to @mark Hiko Simon. You can just say my name, as you can see there, just like Andrea Moboy. And my head looks bigger. Who knows? Yes, anyway, you can do what Andrea did or you can do what Dan H did. And yes, I see we've got Erin there, the moderator, already approving comments. Thank you for doing that, because that's right, I like everything to be approved. And yeah, Quinn Rankard, good to see you. Andrea Moboy, welcome. I hope you're having a good Sunday evening there, late there in Melbourne. Erin, yes, explosive butter, like it. Happy Sunday. Good morning to you. We've got Odie Jr. What's up? By the way, Erin did an awesome job again on the shorts during the week for the short videos. Particularly like the way that she summarized the Olympic opening ceremony summary, crying children and all. It was, yeah, that was quite good. She did a very, very nice job on last week. I do appreciate all the videos that you edit and put up. Mr. Cordy Chap, tune in to see how many times I swear tonight. Yeah, I swear, well, like 3 times I think last week, although they were important swears, they had to be said. So yes, indeed, going down, we've got Dan H. Hello Dan H, good to see you. Sergeant Bilko, good to see you. AV84K, I am Hiko. Yes, good to meet you. Although you're here most weeks. Good to see you, AV84K. And yeah, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. We've got a good morning to Devoid in Arizona. Good to have you with us, as well as Dan H saying, did I hear the Hoover's Institute discussion with Abe 2 weeks ago? Not specifically, although I heard that Abe said some things like Japan should defend Taiwan and some other things. I don't know if that was part of that discussion. He was unusually in the press. Yeah, actually, Abe's been in some interesting stuff. I do have one story about him at the moment. But yes, my head looks much bigger. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Andrea Moboy. Probably the butter, indeed. Yes, people being censored for no good reason. I don't understand what was going on with that. Did that jump ahead? That's everyone that we've got in the comments so far. Although that said, I know that there are 13 viewers. So if you are with us, yeah, just say hello, because I love to say hello to all the people that are saying hello. We've got Pear. They're from Sergeant Bilko. I don't know what that means exactly. Oh, there's some awkward emojis there. Well, there we go. Butter is more censored than eggplants. I like eggplants. I mean, you know, I don't understand how people, yeah. Bit of scientific experimentation going on in the comments there, but of course that is also part of the fun. Please remember, come in, add your comments, say hello, be part of the show, and I encourage you to say, either to say hello, because it's just nice to say hello, or to actually ask me a question or for a topic. It is 10:36. I am going to go through a swear jar. would probably fund my channel with a swear jar as much as you swear on a daily basis. I swear to myself quite a lot. I'm that sort of a person. Magpie882, good to see a Magpie882. Vicious animals. I used to run cross country and would get attacked frequently, but yes, those birds do not take shit from anybody. So yes, indeed. Evie Kelly, hello from Ireland. A new name and a new well, actually, I don't think I've ever had anyone say that they're logging in from Ireland. So good to have you with us. Must be afternoon over there. That's awesome. Anyway, good to have you in the chat. Yes, a lot of emoji experimentation happening. Do what Evie Kelly did. Say hello. Leave a comment for me, and yeah, I'm going to jump in. Let's see. Well, I always put the biggest topics, the main topics up front. So, you know, that's why I struggle to get more than 2 in before the top of the hour. But we'll see how I go. Squirrels. Yes, that is indeed what happens. So first of all, yeah, NBC, screw you. I'm coming for you, NBC. That's copy marked. I've got prior art going back like 30 years. You are not allowed to use what the hell is this? What the hell is this, NBC? Seriously, not cool. Not cool. I mean, you know, pretty sure that's not me. I don't recall being Kenny Mayne. I don't even know who that person is. Look at these American flags all over the place. No, that is definitely not me. That is NBC. Stop it. Cease and desist. I've been doing that for ages. So that is the thing that happened. Thanks for the notification by Mayumin on Twitter, saying that I might want to call out NBC. Yeah, stop it, NBC. That was a thing that happened. Well, I'm going to get through the first story pretty fast, but yes, that's I guess it's a logical sort of a name. Yeah. Anyway, NBC, you're killing me, NBC. Stop it. Anyway, did I copyright the title of the show? Well, funny thing about copyright law is that you don't actually have to register copyright for it to be copyrighted. You just have to have it in writing and proof of it. Now, copyright laws changed now that lately, you know, you don't have to register. You know, think about people who get videos DMCA'd. You just have to have proof that you've published it. And I've published Tokyo Tonight on like 1 billion videos. So yeah, it's fully registered, at least in the sense that it's fully clearly published in America. So, you know, I actually wonder if they copyright checked when they thought of the title Tokyo Tonight. I wonder if they saw me. Hi. I'll forgive them if they, you know, put a link to my channel. I'm not sure if that'd be a good thing or not, but yes. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Honestly, I don't even know, really, NBC. I mean, I know they're like one of the 3 main American TV networks, but I couldn't tell you like which shows they have or anything like that. So I don't really have much ammo to like go after them with or start trash talking them. You know, somebody commented that they think the font there is slightly racist. Still better than Comic Sans. I mean, you know, there are worse fonts. I'm very font sensitive. Yeah, it's not, obviously, I think I've got a better font. But yeah. Anyway, that is something that happened. I think everybody could, yeah. Well, it could be like a party. We'd have a lawsuit. That'd be fun. It'd be like mixing work and play. Anyway, that's a thing. Stop it, NBC. You're killing me. The Olympics. Thank you, Aaron. Well said. So, yeah, with the Olympics, what's going on with the Olympics? Well, I mean, yesterday, well, actually, a few matches between New Zealand and Japan. There was the hockey, there was the soccer. And yeah, it's funny for me watching and trying to figure out, who am I supporting in this? And truth be told, I mean, New Zealand doesn't get a lot of medals. So probably when it comes to Olympics, yeah, I do support New Zealand. I don't get particularly torn up if they don't win. Like, for example, losing the rugby to Fiji, I couldn't lose to a nicer country. I think I talk a lot about the fact that, you know, like how I'm half Australian, and I kind of am in the sense that my mum is Australian, and the sense that I spent like 10 years growing up in Australia and 13 years in New Zealand. So even growing up, I spent about half my time in aggregate in Australia. So I'm very comfortable over there and stuff like that. However, if we are just going by the excuse that, my mum's Australian, so I'm half Australian, then I'm actually, you know, if I'm taking from my parents, I'm actually half Fijian. Obviously, not ethnic Fijian, but there again, I mean, half the population of Fijian is actually like Indian. So again, people are sometimes guilty of assuming, they do this with Japan as well, of assigning ethnic identity to a nationality, which isn't really appropriate for Fiji at all. But my dad was born in Fiji. So, if Fiji beats New Zealand at the rugby, apart from that, they're like the Harlem Globetrotters of rugby. They play the coolest rugby, they do, and it's actually, to me, cool when they beat New Zealand. So I was happy to lose the gold in the, on the rugby to them for that. And the women did well. So, New Zealand's doing well here and there. Actually, as always, they're doing pretty well for the size of the country. They've got like 4 gold medals. They're doing quite well. Japan is just doing crazy good, including the youngest Olympics champion ever, winning the skateboarding. Doing well in a lot of the demonstration sports. The surfing was interesting. This happened with a lot of the sports where there is like point scoring and judging. Apparently, the great hope of Brazil was this person, Medina. I believe that's who it is. And when Kanoa beat Igarashi beat Medina from Brazil in the semi-final of the surfing, the Brazilian online Twitter that was following kind of went nuts, saying that it was like a biased home advantage judging score. I don't know if that's the case. The final was with another Brazilian who won. The gold medal did go to Brazil, but this spot, by the way, where they were surfing out at Ichinomiya, I used to surf there pretty regularly. I wouldn't just surf at Ichinomiya. You go to Chiba and you just figure out on the day like where's likely to have the best waves, and Ichinomiya is right in the middle. It's very accessible. In winter, I'd go further south because you get the Kuroshio, the black current, which is the warm tropical current that comes up to about halfway just south of Ichinomiya. Ichinomiya is like the very bottom end of where it's really cold. It's where you get the current that comes down from Hokkaido. But yeah, it's funny going to a spot which I sort of recognized. I knew what it was like. Like the waves are really, they have size there, but there's lots of dumpers. It's really hard to pick a wave where you can get like a long run sideways. Also, the sideways currents are really tough, and it's funny, I could see the athletes like paddling sideways a lot and sort of recognize it. And of course, they had a typhoon swell, and in the final, if you saw it, like the Brazilian who won, their board like broke on the first wave, and so they went and grabbed another board and went back and still got the gold, which is pretty amazing. Funny with the judging anyway, that this has come up with a couple of sports and people talking about the sports themselves. Some debate as to, I've heard some people suggest that there should be like all subjectively scored sports shouldn't even be in the Olympics, which, I must admit, I mean, there are simple things like a foot race, like track and field or whatever, that are very, very simple and satisfying, at least in the sense that there's no hint of, possibility of bias or subjectivity. I still just have this general thing with the Olympics that, I get a little bit upset when I see sports that are really like elitist sports, remembering that the history of the Olympics it was for rich aristocrats. And the way that the aristocrats kept working class people away from sports, and this was even to the early 20th century when, the Olympics was getting started. And this is very much an English tradition as well. The way that the aristocrats kept working class people out of the sports was they made it that you have to play for the love of the game. You are not allowed to play sports for money. The idea being that if you have working class people who need to work for a living, they're going to be at a disadvantage because you're not allowed to pay them for their time, and they have to feed their families, which means that they can't train during the week or whatever, and that gave an advantage to people who had money and did not have jobs to go to. And that's why the Olympics early on, the amateur idealism, which is still kind of part of the Olympics, this idea that you're not supposed to, it ruins it, it's like tarnishes it if you do it for money. If you pay people, you're going to cause people to act unethically, whereas if you just have a bunch of rich people who don't care about the money or whatever, it's just going to be like a fun contest, and it'll be more about the sportsmanship and camaraderie. But really it was just a big sort of a thing to keep out working class people, and it went on for a long time, and I think it's correct and outdated to keep pro sports and people who receive money out of the Olympics. I think they should get financial bonuses. I think that people, if people, for example, train for a living and can get sponsorships and can earn a living from playing sports, they should be allowed to do that. We expect athletes to train and prepare and be at their best. So that's the idea that you have to basically accept either poverty or that only rich people can do it, and that people with jobs can only train once a week on weekends or something like that. That kind of thinking is outdated. So when I see sports that I think are aimed at like elitist things, like for example equestrian show jumping, like people who basically own the only people who can participate are people who like own ponies. I mean, I suppose theoretically, of course, third world countries, people own horses as well, but of course I've never seen a third world country like participant, and I imagine if they did make it in, they would be like landowners or something like that. I could see adaptations where you could actually try to figure out. I mean, try to figure out what do people do. What sports are popular with people on horses in third world countries, and make those into Olympic sports instead of sports that have an entry fee of like $50,000 for the equipment and club memberships and whatnot. This is where I feel some resistance. I think the test of every sport should be how widely is it played, how accessible is it, and could a kid in rural Zambia play it? Could they have a dream to become to earn entry into the Olympics that way? And I think you can, this is what really gets me about the Winter Olympics is, so many of the sports are basically, only have, 15, 20 countries participating. And, New Zealand is like the third world country in that situation. Teams that, have barely even won a medal. But half the world can't even participate in most of the Winter Olympic sports. I really think actually sports that are played in winter, like football, like soccer, rugby, American football, all that stuff, they should be in the Winter Olympics, not like tobogganing. I mean, I don't know how many people in Zambia, how many kids can afford a toboggan, and even if they could, what they would do with it. I don't know. To me, that's what the Olympics should be about. And, for things like scoring and like rhythmic gymnastics, I do think that if you're going to have like artistic, impressionistic scores, then you might as well have the whole Eurovision song contest, somewhere in the Olympics as well. American Idol Olympics version or something like that. At that point, it does get a little bit silly to me. So, yeah, I think that there are sports not in the Olympics, like, for example, I mean, widely played, accessible sports that anyone from any country could be good at. Things like darts, for example. I was going through a list the other day, but there are some big omissions, actually. The fact that baseball is still basically a demonstration sport when it's really widely played. So, yeah, I would like a rethink along those lines. That said, I'm really enjoying the sports that are there. I used to play hockey when I was in high school, so I'm enjoying watching the field hockey, which I know in the Olympics is called hockey, and a lot of Canadians getting upset saying that that's not hockey, but for the Olympics, yes, that hockey is field hockey. I'm kind of having fun with that aspect of it. It is great. It's a shame for the athletes in a way that they are doing it without audiences to sort of motivate them, and they have that sort of very, very sort of quiet, somber sort of atmosphere that they're doing it in. And in the heat, of course. A lot of people making a big deal about the heat in Tokyo. I saw the CNN coverage saying that the big story of the Olympics is, of course, the heat. But yeah, and a lot of people saying that the Tokyo Olympic Committee lied about the heat in Tokyo, saying that it had very pleasant temperatures in July that were ideal for the Olympics, which I mean, that's like describing, Iraq in 1990 as a pleasant place for a vacation or something, Everybody, by the way, everybody knew that wasn't true. And how hard is it to find out? I mean, I have been putting on Twitter complaining about the weather from July through August and into September, like every year. Just follow my Twitter, IOC, and you could have avoided this whole thing. Interesting as well, by the way, that the final reaction when we had the last couple of years have been so unbearably hot in Tokyo, and every year people die from heat stroke and so on, that they actually gave in last year and they decided, okay, we're going to move the marathon up to Hokkaido as far north as possible, where it's at a higher latitude, so it should be cooler. So what happens? It's very hot and humid in Tokyo. It's been 34 degrees Celsius. I don't know. Somebody post in the comments how much that is in Fahrenheit, but it's high humidity as well. So it feels awful, even though the temperature doesn't look like that incredible. But up in Hokkaido, where they moved the marathon to for safety reasons, it's been like 38.7 degrees. They're having like record temperatures up there, and it is much hotter than Tokyo. So, I don't know what they're going to do up there. Seriously, if the weather's like that, they're going to have to do it at like 5 o'clock in the morning or like at midnight or something like that, because it's really not going to work. The other problem, of course, is that, again, they've been trying to keep crowds away or tell crowds not to go and to watch it at home. But the Olympics have taken over Tokyo. So, I haven't, but lots of people naturally, if you live near one of the venues and there are places where you can see into the stadiums and whatever, apparently you can see the BMX course from like a train station platform. So people started like gathering and crowding around the train platform where you could see it. And so then they brought police in asking people, move along, nothing to see here, Naked Gun style. And of course, it's the Olympics. Everyone's like watching and cheering. Same with the triathlon. Same with everything else. And it's going to be like that up with the marathon. People are going to want to go out and see. You put the thing on. You can't put it on and tell people not to go. I mean, they did cancel with the stadiums and so on. The other big story, of course, going on is, and it's interesting, actually, Aaron shared with me the discussion about Simone Biles. I honestly haven't followed it that closely, and I don't know if it's actually clear that it is anything to do with her ADHD medication, which is, there's some speculation. This is actually linked to apparently the Russians, who are pissed off that they've been banned like as a nation from the Olympics. Of course, there's the ROC, the Russian Olympic Committee team, which is basically a smaller team of people who don't participate in the KGB doping program for the entire, I think it's now called the FSV, doping program for the entire Russian nation in the Summer and Winter Olympics. There's a few clean athletes which are allowed to participate. But of course, you mess with the FSV, they will hack into and find the medical records of every athlete and all the dirt and publish it online. And they did find out that Simone Biles was apparently taking Ritalin and had a pass for it during the last Olympics. And a lot of people suggested, that'd be performance enhancing, wouldn't it? I don't care, honestly. and I think I've seen speculation that maybe she was forced to stop taking her medication in Tokyo, and that's why she had the mental thing. I've talked about this before, about the ADHD thing. Look, it is true that ADHD is not, it's only very recently even recognized as a condition in Japan, and you cannot get Ritalin or Adderall here. Although I think I saw something which said that you can get Ritalin like for a different thing, but not for that. However, my understanding is that, yes, you have to go through and apply for special permission to bring it into the country, but you can get permission for it. And I would assume if you're coming for the Olympics and you need it, you would apply for the permission for it. And she's had it before and travels with it. So I don't know that she was told to stop it, but it is true. If you have ADHD and you're watching this and you're thinking about coming to Japan one day, you may not be able to bring it into Japan, and you do have to apply for special permission for it, and you should definitely Google it and check with the consulate and so on. You'll definitely need a prescription for it and to declare it. If you try to bring it in and you don't declare it, or if you are here and you try to sneak it in, like for example, there was a case of a student I've talked about on the show who tried to bring in some Adderall that was in a Tylenol container, and that when the customs found it and they checked it and they checked what it was, remember that basically Adderall and Ritalin are they're legalized medication forms of crystal meth. They're methamphetamine. And they are, and basically because they're not recognized as pharmaceutical products in Japan, they are treated as per what they are. You will be charged with trying to import crystal meth, and don't, in Japan, that's a world of pain, so don't do that. A couple of people have gotten in trouble trying to get their medication into Japan and going about it in really stupid ways. I don't know. I haven't seen confirmation that is the story with Simone Biles. It sounds like that was just, it was actually just the pressure and probably on herself as much as anything getting to her. Anyway, that's all the stuff that's been going on with the Olympics. I'm going to talk next about the other, probably to me, more important story about what's going on in the rest of Tokyo while that's going on. By the way, final thing before I wrap up on the Olympics, I'm loving it. Now, I still completely think it was a mistake doing it. Like, there are tons of reasons it was a mistake, actually, including doing it at this time of year. There was actually one other thing. I couldn't get it to load into Flipboard, but I did see a video of the New Zealand Olympic headquarters in Auckland, and everybody, like a crowded room of people with no masks, jumping up and down and cheering and hugging each other when New Zealand got a medal. And I still find it really jarring to see that kind of thing. It's just been so long now where nobody's been able to do that, and good on New Zealand being able to do that. But it did remind me what we've missed out on. The rush to do the Olympics no matter what in 2021, rather than just delaying it to 2030 32, which I think was an option, is that, yes, we're doing it, and yes, they're great, and yes, I'm enjoying them, and yes, I really appreciate all the hard work of the volunteers that are making it happen, and I really appreciate, of course, the efforts of the athletes, and I am enjoying the Olympics very much, and I'm grateful for the efforts of the volunteers and the athletes. That said, what they're missing out on, and what I think the real experience of Tokyo would have been the hospitality and the crowds. The Rugby World Cup, the Soccer World Cup, you could see what Japanese crowds are like. If you've ever been to a concert in Japan, people are just nice. They are cool. The idea that the Olympics is all about nationalism, you look at the Soccer World Cup in 2002. In Japan, every single game, I mean, even between, totally obscure countries with no chance, were completely sold out all over the country, because people just wanted to be at the event. In Korea, bless their hearts, I love Korea, but the only games which sold out were the games where Korea was playing. And so all the Japanese fans, all the people in Japan who just wanted to watch a World Cup game while it was being hosted and they couldn't get one of the rare tickets to watch it in Japan, flew over to Korea, and we're all watching the games over in Korea because the stadiums were empty if they weren't involving Korea over there. I.e., Japanese people will just fill up a stadium and get into it and go crazy for any sport, for anything. And that's what we would have really... And you can see right away, it just reminded me that that's what the magic of having the event in Tokyo would have been. It wouldn't have been the good organization. It wouldn't have been the facilities. It wouldn't have been, everything running on time or anything like that. It would have been the interaction with the local host city. And, Tokyo decided that it was better to go ahead without that than to delay it to when they could do that. And, I think Japan's lost, like, both the community has lost an opportunity in being able to participate in that, and the country's lost. I mean, when the country does this for prestige, they've forgotten that the best aspect of prestige that Japan would have earned from having the Olympics would have been the great PR from Japanese fans, and that's not going to happen. And I just seeing this video from New Zealand just reminded me, yeah, that's actually really missing, and it's the biggest shame about this whole thing. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the rest of Tokyo in a moment, but that's what's going on for me with the Olympics right now. Back into the comments. Yeah, that was one story, and it's coming up onto the hour, so there you go. So many comments, so many people saying hello to me, so let's do that. Hang on, let's go back. I was first indeed. Quint Ranked. So what do you mean that they don't know what shows they have? At least one. Well, no. So Quint Ranked. I definitely know. If you list off the NBC shows, I'll probably recognize all of them. It's just I don't know which ones are NBC, which ones are ABC. I don't know. So if you tell me The Sopranos are NBC, I'll be okay. Which actually I haven't seen. If was Breaking Bad NBC, I have no idea, but I love that. So but this is the point. I couldn't actually call out and start trash talking them because I don't know them well enough. Wingstar, awesome to see you, and good to see you in the comments. Scrolling down, looking for names. Shout out if you haven't said hello yet. Barry Convex, you're watching on Eurosport Online, no adverts, which is great. Yeah, I've been watching on gorin.jp if you're in Japan, and NHK, and you can watch everything live, and I'm enjoying that very much. AV84K, have I seen Curse of the Olympic Flame by Internet Historian? Is that a YouTube video? I have not, but I will check that out. Thank you for the recommendation. I do appreciate it. Aaron, I like the meme going around suggesting that we put one average person on who hasn't trained to compete in every event so we compare. Yeah, where did I see that? I think I saw someone else recommending that. Yes, I think that would be kind of awesome and awkward. I would volunteer to be average person I'm just thinking it might be dangerous in some sports. I have fired an air pistol once before. It was like a target, which was like a washing powder box, which was put on a shed. And my dad was Army, right? So there were a bunch of people who know how to shoot were taking turns having shots. And I was like 11. They said, "Hey son, you want to take a shot?" I'm like, okay. It was a small target and it was on a tin shed. So when I fired the air gun, everyone basically it ricocheted and everybody hit the floor and decided that was not something that they should have done. And I can imagine if they let me be average person at the shooting, yeah, it might cause injuries. But yes, I do like the idea of having like a slow average person just for an indication. I do love the tech as well and how watchable it's making everything. Sainted Sir, good to see you. Who else we got in here? Simon or Chanama, great to see you. Welcome. Dan H, how can New Zealand, Japan Pro Wrestling have 5,000 people in an indoor stadium, yet the Olympic events aren't allowed to? How can New Japan Pro Wrestling have 5,000 people in a stadium, yet Olympics can't have any events? People have called that out, not just the pro wrestling, the pro soccer, the baseball have also been in front of limited. They're not allowed to fill up entirely, but yes, they have been in front of audiences, and people have said, even Bach called that out. I think the difference with the Olympics, although frankly it's not a very credible one, I agree with the sentiment that there should just be, there's two things. One, within Japan there has been no mandatory lockdown this entire time. There's been no legal, there have only been requests, and frankly some of these pro sports have just said, screw you guys, and the government's not brought in anything stronger to force lesser participation. The other thing, of course, with the Olympics is that you are talking about 100,000 people from 200 countries visiting in the middle of a pandemic. So, you probably have higher standards, and that's natural. But yes, the Olympic standards make sense. The standards that are letting other pro sports in Japan have like full crowds doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, especially as we're about to get into with the cases going on in Tokyo. So, yeah, you're right to call that out, Dan H. Sergeant Bilko, why didn't they move the Olympics a few months like they did in 1964? As far as I'm aware, it's fucking NBC steals my show name and stop the Olympics moving. Again, I don't know if it was exactly NBC. I can't even keep up with them, but it's the pro football. It's basically the American sports TV calendar dictates that if they moved it to October this time, it would interfere with the broadcast schedules of other sports, and this is how basically this is all being dictated by the TV broadcasting. So yeah, that wasn't an issue in 1964, but I understand that the idea of it not being a non-starter to move this time is to do with the broadcasting seasons, which is dumb. And someone else pointed out, I think, that the Summer Olympics for Sydney were held in October, so I don't know how they swung that. And again, I mean, Sydney would be crazy if they did Sydney in like January. I mean, Sydney's not the hottest place in Australia, but it's still pretty nuts there. And you get the wind in the right direction, you get 40 degrees there. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure if that's really what it is, but that's what I understand the explanation is. Yeah, I'll thank you, Magpie. Sorry, and I know that wasn't tagged at me, but I couldn't help but notice the comment from Magpie882 actually confirming that there is ADHD medication here that is non-stimulant based, but in America, of course, they use stimulants for it. So, yes, no squirrels needed, indeed. Where we're going, we don't need no squirrels. Yes, greetings, believe in yourself, excellent to see you. And guys, English World, good to have you in the chat in 2032. Yeah, I think it would have made more sense. Yeah, second topic. Actually, I did get through two topics because the first one was NBC ripping me off. So there you go. Arak299, excellent to see you as always. Lysander45 and Milchman too. Good to, and Shubus. Good to have. Got all the gang rocking in. Good to see that. Still on the first story. Yes, you know how I roll. It'll speed up. Don't worry. Yeah, I try to make it as hard as possible for Aaron, where I just have one 30-minute topic and then 10 like 5-second topics. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Is Akasan already in the comments? That would be good to see. The J-Vlog, excellent. The original proposal was for October, as far as you know, and they changed it. Oh, is that right? For the 2020 Olympics? I mean, that would have made a ton more sense, but there again, I mean, I did hear that they were talking about it being pleasant in June. I don't know where they got that from, but yes, it would have been pleasant in October. That wouldn't have been like real estate selling, but yes. Squirrel. Yes, you are correct. Oh, and I didn't even mention that apparently misbehaving. Well, okay, I'll come back to this one, but apparently there haven't been a lot of cases of misbehaving athletes like wandering around town, but I have heard anecdotal stories from people I know who have seen people with Olympic tags like walking around town, including two who got caught. That people from Georgia went to Tokyo Tower, which is pretty cool, and I do recommend it over the Sky Tower. It's, but at the same time, like getting expelled from the Olympics, is it worth it? Probably not. But yes, so there is stuff like that going on. But what is going on in Tokyo? Beat the pictogram. Yes, okay, focus. Next story. What's going on in Tokyo? Tokyo is going crazy. So it looks like Delta variant is here. I do like that they're using alpha, beta, Delta. I don't know, I can't remember my Greek alphabet very well, but I don't like the rhetoric of, again, clearly it came from China. I don't think that needs any, there's no effort to hide that by renaming it. But I think blaming, talking about the British variant and the Indian variant, I don't think helps really anything. Delta variant, we know is that it sucks, and who knows if it actually came originally from India, or it might have come from Pakistan, or it might have come from Bhutan, for all that we know. But it sucks. It's everywhere, and it's here now. It's rapidly gone in the last week from being 10% of cases in Tokyo to 70% of cases in Tokyo, and we've rapidly gone from 1,000 cases a day in Tokyo to now getting up 4,000 cases the other day. And the rate of cases is accelerating like this. And the thing is that among those cases, it used to be like 30-40% of the people were over 65 who were getting it, whereas now it's like 2%, i.e. because nearly I think 75% are fully vaccinated, and 85% of people over 65 have had at least one shot, and they're going to get the second one. It's not affecting at least what I think we've learned from other countries is that the vaccinations will not stop you catching it per se, but they'll make your symptoms so mild that you may not even notice it, or they may be so mild that you won't go and get tested for it. So in terms of recorded cases, the recorded number of cases involving elderly has just plummeted, yet the number of cases involving 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and the number of 30 and 40-year-olds and even 20-year-olds getting serious cases that require ICU treatment has gone up like crazy. So, it's far more contagious and it's far more dangerous, and it's a great reminder to just get vaccinated as soon as possible. Just any sort of protection that you can give yourself. Being young isn't as much of a protection anymore, and with the cases skyrocketing, we'd never had more than 2,500 cases in a single day in Tokyo, whereas we're heading the latest estimate from University of Kyoto on there's what do they call it, not epidemiologists, but people who can actually predict pandemic numbers. The Hachiwari Oji-san, he's predicting that by October 10, Tokyo would be up to 5,000 cases a day. The fact that we got up to 4,000 on Friday says, I don't know, I think it might even be sooner than that, and predicts that by August 26, again, if things don't subside, we'll be up to 16,000 cases per day in Tokyo. It's already happening that within Tokyo and Osaka, they have run out of hospital beds, and they are asking people to, particularly people who live alone, to basically isolate themselves at home, and they're dispatching doctors to go and visit people. They're dropping off ventilators at homes that people can, not like full, surgically insert ventilators, but basically oxygen machines and stuff like that. They are basically now distributing to Tokyo and Osaka governments to take to people's homes for people to use themselves if their oximeters show low scores. Tokyo's on the brink of this. They're warning now that basically Tokyo's red on all counts, that they are rapidly, even at 3,000 to 4,000 cases per day right now, and we could be a week away from it being double that. They are running out of hospital beds. And they're already planning to start asking people people who live alone to not go into hospital, to try to allow treatment from their homes. So they're basically that sounds pretty close to a medical system collapse, which we came close to when there were 2,500 cases a day, and we're already past that. So the situation is actually pretty dire in Tokyo. The one thing that you can say, I was concerned. I couldn't see how you could have the Olympics without it leaking out from the Olympics into the community. I couldn't see how you could, restrain that given the lack of controls. Certainly, it seems that people have been clustering to go to events to try to catch glimpses of the Olympics. And I'm sure those have probably, in some cases, turned into clusters. But it looks like in terms of the Olympic Village bubble, seems to be pretty effective, other than some isolated cases of people getting caught, like at Tokyo Tower, 2 Georgian athletes and stuff like that. Generally speaking, that said, I do know people have said that they were in Roppongi and they saw people walking around Roppongi with accreditation tags, and some people I think there have been TV specials also highlighting this and showing that some people have been, it's as easy as getting in a taxi. They're not locked in the dorms in the Olympic Village at all. In a way, I kind of hope that the increasing cases are sort of scary, scaring people into not going out and misbehaving and breaking their cardboard beds. But it has gone kind of out of control. And the thing is, I don't think it's because of directly because of the Olympics. But where the Olympics are really affecting things is, for example, today we've got Obon vacation coming up in a couple of weeks, and a lot of people have already booked their plans to travel home, to their rural towns or whatever. As well as the summer vacations for kids right now. So a lot of people are already taking vacations, frankly. People from Tokyo, in spite of these numbers, there are no restrictions. So people are going to Okinawa and Hokkaido, and they are spreading it all over the country. So today there was a meeting with all of the governors of Japan, and they said to everybody, we would like them to cancel their travel plans and not to go out of prefecture voluntarily. And at least on the Nichan news aggregator site that covered that, everybody said, you invite the entire world to come into Tokyo for the Olympics. How can we take you seriously when you're asking us not to take a trip out of the prefecture? Screw you, I'm going. And all these other people, I've booked my trips and I'm not going to cancel them. So I think they've kind of cashed away a little bit of their credibility. At least people are angry at the double standard that they've proceeded with the Olympics, where at the same time it's supposedly too dangerous for people to see their grandmother, which it clearly is. And they are kind of managing the bubble, but it just plays into, again, how are people supposed to voluntarily in good faith cooperate with the government, which they feel like is acting in bad faith with them? And this is, again, where, I'm not from the cancel the Olympics now crowd. I think they shouldn't have held it. But, I think now that they're doing it, sure, go through with it and make it a success. But, the government, I hope the government gets its ass kicked in the September elections. I think it's September, that they're national elections. They deserve it. And right now, even with the full state of emergency and so on, it's not having any break effect like it's had in the past, which again just shows to me it's more to do with the Delta variant itself than the Olympics. But the fact that it's kind of broken down trust in authorities as well, and people have lost their sense of emergency and crisis. Because how can you feel like it's an emergency when the city is full of 100,000 foreign tourists, for the Olympics? It's just how it is. People have become cynical about it. So that's what's happening in Tokyo. It's pretty grim, and it's not getting better. I'm looking forward to getting my second shot on Friday the 13th. I didn't realize it was Friday the 13th. That only clicked with me yesterday and made me well, I'm not really superstitious, but yes, it seemed like I could have picked a better day. I got it deliberately on the Friday because I'm seeing people get messed up by the second shots, like fevers and stuff like that. So got it right before the weekend. I'm getting it late on Friday, so we'll see how that goes. I'm nervous to even, frankly, go to work for that one time to go get the shot. That's how I am. Just with how contagious everything is. Just thinking it might be better to just go by taxi rather than by train to work. But it's pretty nuts at the moment. So yes, that's that story. Wingstar, you invite me to New Jersey to have some gabagool. I don't know, what's gabagool? It sounds good. Hey, I'm there. I would love to go to New Jersey. I've been to Pennsylvania, and I went by train from Pennsylvania to New York for one day, and that was and honestly, I nearly leaving New Zealand. It was either going to be New York or Tokyo. So I haven't been to New Jersey, but yes, I actually work with a New Jersey person, and it looks like a cool place. And plus, I watch. Now I've just been addicted to these pizza review videos, the one bite reviews, and they cover a lot of New Jersey pizza. So yes, New Jersey is a place I would love to go to. So thank you very much for the offer, Wingstar. Just going back, first vaccination tomorrow. Congratulations, RROC299. Get that. Believe me, I think you need it now more than ever. I am badass. Thank you, Tikio Sam. Speaking the truth as always. One of the guys at your guest house got COVID, and the city gave him the choice of hospital or hotel. Most places are just sending them to the hotel where they don't do anything for them. LOL. Yeah. Well, that sucks, by the way. I hope your friend's okay. They put him up for a week, only a week, no meds or doctor visit or nothing. Okay, well, that's pretty awful. Dan H., has there been any big nepotism or cronyism, corruption scandals involving COVID contacts in Japan, like other countries, for example, in the UK? I'm not sure I know what you mean, which I guess maybe then the answer is no. Do you mean in terms of people avoiding like getting in trouble for it? I guess the thing to remember in Japan is that there's nothing to avoid. There is no coercive lockdown. There's no enforcement. There's no police. So the idea of there have been cases of, for example, bureaucrats being caught going to restaurants and whatnot. And, it makes the papers because, Asahi's making its whole business at the moment of criticizing, government officials, ignoring the request for voluntary compliance. So there have been cases where people have been caught. I don't think there have been... Oh, you mean like contracts in terms of manufacturing? There was a bit of a story around the Abeno masks, which everyone got sent, and, they had like bugs and mold in them, and that they were from, LDP sponsor sort of companies, and no one wanted them. That's really the only one. I haven't seen anything significant in terms of corruption or cronyism around contracts, including things like these ventilators. I mean, it was on NHK. Nothing that I'm aware of anyway. I've been following, so I guess the answer is generally no. But yeah, it is funny. The only vaccine actually being made in Japan right now is AstraZeneca, which the government is not using. So they're exporting it everywhere under COVAX. And there's a big news story tonight that they're sending, Japan sent 11 million doses of AstraZeneca to Sri Lanka, saying that it was, produced in Japan. It is a bit weird. I mean, again, I know that there are the risks of clotting, which I think statistically don't sound too different to the risk of clotting from just traveling on an airplane for a long flight. So I don't know. I would look, if it was the only thing available, I would take it. To me, the numbers and the stats on the mRNA viruses look better. Vaccines look better, but but no, nothing in particular around that. Good question, as always, Dan H. Jumped ahead there. Let's. Didn't you watch The Sopranos? I actually didn't watch The Sopranos. I didn't. I know about The Sopranos. I feel like if I started watching The Sopranos, it would be weeks from my life. So I've been waiting for the right moment to watch it. It's probably the biggest TV show from America that I would watch and enjoy that I haven't watched. So I guess I should. Sorry about that. Gabagool. Okay, I'm gonna have to. Maybe that's what I need to watch the Sopranos for, so I understand that. I thought that was like Long Island, wasn't it? Is that New Jersey? I guess. So there you go. I don't even know. Come to Panama and have a banana. I would love to go to Panama and have a banana. I've heard that like in Panama they still have those bananas, like the old bananas, which like don't grow anywhere anymore, that actually taste better. Actually, all sorts of reasons I'd love to go to Panama. I like to go to Costa Rica, which is nearby, which has excellent surfing. But I've heard good food and good people in Panama. I'd love to go everywhere, honestly. But yes, I do appreciate all the invitations. Kagan Kodos, good to see you. 45 minutes in, don't worry about it. 50 minutes in now. Lysander 45. Biggest issue is that you're talking with Aaron there, so that's good to see you in the chat. Back into the next topic. So official cigarettes at the 1984 Olympics, and I saw people laughing about things that didn't age well. And then I remembered that Asahi Beer is a sponsor of the current Olympics. So, yeah, there's that. It is funny how, in the end of the day, is alcohol really that different to... Whoa. What happened? We lost the screen capture. Come back. Come on. Hang on a sec. Live. Technical issues. It's not coming back. Come on, you can do it. Okay. I'm gonna fix this technical issue. Give me one moment. Let's force exit and start it again. And yes, let's force close that. Starting the new app. Oh, come on. I am totally going to get a new iPhone the next time. I've gone like 3 or 4 years now. I'm hoping it'll put rest to some of these technical issues. There we go. Boom. Okay, the official cigarettes of the 1984 Olympics. So yes, alcohol somehow gets away with it when cigarettes don't. I guess I myself am also cool with alcohol, but it's objectively not much better than this. And the idea that alcohol is always so tied up with sports. Yes, indeed. Oh, you have 4 of the limited editions glasses mugs. They're pretty cool. Of the Marlboro ones. I mean, I remember when Marlboro used to be like everything with like motor racing and yeah, it was kind of. In fact, these aren't Marlboro, are they? They were Marathon cigarettes. I mean, there's completely ironic. I mean, imagine, Asahi beer shooting. Like, the Olympics have a shooting event, and the Olympics are sponsored by Asahi beer. It's theoretical that, I don't know, at the shooting, that you would have the skeet shooting, that you could have Asahi beer. That's almost as ironic as having cigarettes with Marathon written on them. But anyway, that was kind of funny. Next story. I'm going to move it along. We've got 8 minutes left. China. I saw a great story on Anton Petrov. He's got lately. I've been watching every video that he puts up. He's like a school teacher in Canada. He has an accent, which I assume means he probably immigrated into Canada and became Canadian. But he just does like space stuff like every day, like seriously. And he's just like a really cool school teacher. Like, I would want to go to whatever school he teaches at just to like have him as a teacher. And yeah, he did a great thing on this, on the Thorium nuclear reactor being built in China. And I know when you say nuclear reactor being built in China, everybody goes, oh, those evil Chinese are probably trying to do something evil again. But no, actually, this is an interesting case. That this is another type of nuclear reactor that is just different to the nuclear reactors that we use in most of the world, including the Fukushima, most of the ones in Japan, run on uranium and generate waste which can be weaponized. And it's funny, the technology for thorium nuclear reactors apparently existed like from the 1960s, but people didn't build them because they wanted to make weapons grade uranium, and there was no point building thorium nuclear reactors because they didn't create the nuclear weapons. So it's actually a safer technology. It doesn't generate, because it doesn't use water for cooling, it uses like molten salt for cooling. You don't have the hydrogen explosions which you had at Fukushima or whatever. I'm a fan of hydrogen, but not when it's exploding in a nuclear reactor. So yeah, it's actually safer and more stable and cheaper and easier to build, and produces a ton of carbon-free electricity, and it's less radioactive. Still radioactive, and still takes a long time to become safe, but less than half the time of nuclear waste from regular nuclear reactors today. So the idea from China here of developing this and getting this technology right is that they could start sharing these reactors as part of their Belt and Road initiative with like developing countries. And you know what? That's a great idea. I mean, I still obviously think that renewable and sustainable energy is the ideal end game of this. In fact, the ideal end game to me is space-based energy generation, that you don't even have to do it on Earth, and you can beam the electricity down to Earth and use it down here. So you don't have to affect the climate anymore. But this is actually for climate change and for development. And this is just a great technology being used in a really good way. And in spite of the stigma against nuclear tech, this is exactly what we should be like investing in the field, right? We should be, rather than just stigmatizing the whole thing, we should be looking at ways to do it cheaper and safer, and ways that don't, promote weaponization or that are not as dangerous. This is a great way. So I thought this was actually a great story. So yeah, not that much this. Good to see you, Natalie. Good to see you there. It's a shame that nuclear energy can be so clean, but the negatives are negative. Yeah. That's right. I mean, look, I'm with you. I'm not pro-nuclear per se, but I think that it is necessary for addressing climate change. I think we've got to, there are advantages to coal, for example. The coal is great for powering engines. You can wind up or wind down a grid like instantly, which you can't really do with wind or photovoltaics, at least not without, other sort of means. Take hydro, you flood, you have to flood and damage entire, large areas to create the reservoirs for dams or whatever for hydro. Everything has its drawbacks, right? I mean, any sort of power source, even photovoltaics and wind power have drawbacks. Yeah, the drawbacks of nuclear are pretty bad, but again, here's a technology which, as I understand, could never become like what Fukushima became like. It's much safer. So yeah, do this, don't do that. We should be trying to improve it. But yes, anyway, good to see you, Natalie, and good to have you in the comments. Next story: offshore wind power is to become Japan's biggest. Offshore wind is to power Japan's biggest green hydrogen plant. So again, Japan is going crazy with the hydrogen, and this idea that again, what green hydrogen? Hydrogen is basically can be generated. It can be extracted from hydrocarbons, which basically are coal or regular fossil fuels, gasoline. It can be extracted from. Problem is, of course, you've got a ton of carbon to burn off and separate and get rid of, and it can actually be very dirty producing hydrogen that way. Then you've got grey hydrogen, where you can actually produce it like where you try to capture the carbon while taking it out of still fossil-based stuff. But the ideal way to get hydrogen is to get it out of water through electrolysis. The problem being, it's ironic, you have to use electricity to get the electricity out of the water. It's not very efficient. But the point being that, of course, once you generate hydrogen and you store it, you can move it around anywhere and turn it into a battery later on. And it's stable, and it doesn't run out, and it's not made out of lithium. And so the ideal way to generate it through electrolysis is something like, using wind power, so that it doesn't, it can be intermittent. It doesn't have to be going all the time. And just as it does, it'll just generate the stuff, and you can just pull up in a ship and move it along. So yeah, it's more expensive. It's not as reliable. It's not as easy to make as it is actually getting it out of fossil fuel sources. But it points to a really nice way of getting to a future where basically everything runs on non-carbon based energy sources. And Japan is going big on this, and I think it's a smart bet. And it's good to see this kind of technology being proven. PB, excellent to see you. Hey, Eddie, also good for you. Waiting for fusion, 30 more years. And you know what? Me too. I think fusion's awesome. But I actually think that, we're going back to the moon in the next couple of years. I would love if we would build photovoltaic, solar panels out of moon materials, mine on the moon, make it. And the moon's got such low gravity, you don't need rockets. You could just catapult them out into space and into orbit around Earth, and generate the electricity and beam it down to Earth. Not sure if that's safe or not, but again, you could probably just set up robots to just do that and keep adding to it until you've got enough electricity for everyone everywhere, if you ask me. So to me, that's low tech. That's easy. So for me, that's what we should be going to the moon for. And that I hope we start doing in the really near future. Japan being Japan, Tokyo Medical University, I think I mentioned this a year ago or two, where they found out that they were actually manipulating the scores of women and men to reduce the number of women. So basically, men were getting with lower scores and women with good scores were getting failed because the medical university hospital found it inconvenient that apparently they were finding that there were higher rates of women who were leaving in the middle of their internships and whatever for marriage or other reasons. And so because they thought that women were unreliable because they get married and have babies and whatnot, that they just wanted to let less into the university, and they were manipulating the scores. And when people found out that actually qualified based on the exam results, but had their scores manipulated to not let them in and to let less competent men pass, there was a large group lawsuit against the university. In America, you can imagine, to me, look, people got payouts based on the, and how many plaintiffs were there? The math of this, if you think about this in the US, 57 million yen sounds impressive, but it was actually $520,000 in the end. And this was spread among 558 applicants who received between $360 and $2,000, depending on how many times they took the exams. If you ask me, two problems here. One, I would question the medical certification of any doctor who's graduated from this, because you don't know if they were one of the doofuses that was just let through because they have a schlong. And then you've got the woman who, it's not just an exam. This might have stopped them going to medical school when clearly they qualified for it. I think they should be getting full scholarships to go to university at Tokyo Medical University or some other university. All those 558 people should have paid scholarships. They shouldn't just be getting $360 for the inconvenience of the exam. What the hell is that? Again, so it shows, in Japan court had the right, win-lose result, but I think, in Japan, the court, again, I work in this field here, the courts here are not generous with amounts, and I don't think they even asked for very much, frankly. In America, you can imagine there will be punitives and millions of dollars just based on emotional suffering and whatnot, which, yeah, I think would be legitimate here. So, this still kind of sucks, and Tokyo Medical University still sucks. And I think they got off really light, but it's good that there was at least a result in this case. Quinn Ranked, in the US, this might be a criminal fraud, and then there would be a civil suit. Yeah, right. I mean, I honestly don't understand how this isn't also a criminal case. It is a private university, and I guess they're treating this like letting people into like a country club. But, I mean, no, no. This is exam rigging. The fact that, they give 520K is, again, when you think that students there pay on average, what are their average fees? They're probably paying like $30,000-$40,000 a year in fees from each student. They could easily recap this within the fees from 1 year. So, it seems off to me, but that's the thing. Some comments, Japan Nichan reacting to people talking about how people apparently on NHK were inviting people to send faxes of support for the Olympic team. In 2021, how does Japan still have faxes? Yes, I have a fax. I've talked about this before. They are still definitely a thing. And even when I make fun of that fact, some people say, oh, you're really original making fun of faxes. But it's real, and it's stupid, and I hate them. I hate that we have to use them for work sometimes. I hate that my son's school requires me to send a fax when he's going to be late. But it's kind of exciting using a fax, I suppose. I mean, it's the one thing, I suppose, when people talk about Back to the Future, episode 2, and what it got right and wrong. Faxes all through the house probably didn't seem right to most people in America, but it was true in Japan. That was actually an accurate prediction. Just the same as usual. Less than 10% of Japanese companies have female presidents. Again, just shows Japan has a long way to go. I think I talked for a while ago about this is kind of interesting with Abe. He's been in the news lately because Suga is doing so badly that his head's cut off there, but trust me, that's Abe wearing the suit. There he is. Suga is doing so badly that it looks like there's going to be an LDP party leader election, i.e. within the party, for who they want within the party to be the prime minister in September, and then they're going to have a national election in November. So, i.e. the LDP is coming up to choosing who they want to be their leader in the national election. And Suga is doing so badly in the polls right now. There are some people suggesting that, Abe has started to speak up again, and some people saying, hey, Abe, you want to go for a third round? And he's kind of not turning that sort of talk down. Suga's been in the press saying that he actually thinks that he's hoping that other people recognize that this is a pandemic and it's not a good time to be having an internal contest, and he hopes to be reappointed prime minister with no vote within the party, as you would when you're polling less than 30% support. So it's kind of interesting to me that just at the same time that Abe is starting to get attention again and people are starting to talk about him maybe being prime minister again, people are talking about the Sakura no Kai, the cherry blossom viewing party that was organized by his sort of political fundraisers, where he basically used tax funds to pay people who were supporters or whatever, but basically to put on a kind of really lavish dinner and cherry blossom viewing thing, and it was all paid for by him, which under Japanese electoral laws is the sort of thing that you could get in trouble as basically for paying for votes. Somehow he had a friend who was prosecuted and decided not to prosecute him, but just like a week ago, the prosecutor's office has said, you know what, that was probably a mistake. We probably are going to prosecute him after all. And it's interesting that this is just coming up at this timing. If you're like a conspiracy theorist, it is very convenient for Suga that the prosecutor's office has decided to look at Abe again, just when they're about to, when he might be looking to challenge Suga for the leadership. So, that'll be an interesting one to watch. I'll let you know if anything happens with that. Japanese, in spite of COVID and everything else, still have the longest life expectancy in the world. Women's life expectancy both have increased, men and women, but women are now up to 87.74 years. And now up to top in the world. So, Japan is doing well at that. And that is all the topics. I'm 5 minutes over. It's not so bad. Not so bad. I did have to rush through the end. I'm going to go into the topics at the end. Dan H, I can't believe how it's so small just because the potential lost income must be large, right? I mean, think about someone who didn't get into medical school, or at least not that one, or maybe didn't become a doctor. Yeah, it has a big impact on life. I mean, there again, I mean, I suppose you can flip it around. Does a university have to predict the income that would have been earned from someone going into the university and completing and graduating and getting a job, and compensate on that basis for administering an exam? But clearly the impact is very large on people's lives. So, you know, to me, I definitely think they got off on the light side of that. And at least from the university's responsibility perspective, even if they couldn't have paid the lost wages from future jobs from the degree, they could have at least paid the cost of what they owed them, which was, you know, a medical degree. So I think they should have got scholarships. But yeah, Kang and Kodos, your fax broke and it was the end of the world. Yeah, I can imagine how that would be pretty rough. AV84K, does it still accept carrier pigeons? No, although if they did want to bring them back, one thing that Tokyo has no shortage of is pigeons. You know, they are rats with wings. And if you wanted to use them for messaging, yes, it would probably be pretty effective. But I mean, I think they only even stopped using pages like 2 years ago. So, you know, we're holding on to the 1990s in every way here. Hey, Eddie, is Suga or LDP? Is it Suga or LDP in general polls? It's both, but it's Suga's cabinet is the way that they ask. So do you support the Suga cabinet? And his cabinet rating is down. In terms of preferred prime minister ratings, Suga was actually now is like down to like 8th choice. Even Edinol of the CDP, who is like not very popular from the opposition, you know, he's basically, in terms of like individual popularity, the polls don't actually focus on that very much, but when it comes up, he is way down, like number 8 or number 9 preferred prime minister. But his cabinet as a whole and his performance is doing quite badly. So yeah. Lysander 45, who's in the running along with Suga for leadership last year? It was Ishiba. He's the main person who's been like, he was hoping to be next in line after Abe. He's the former defense minister. Suga was Abe's cabinet secretary, so it was sort of, you know, they're handing the baton to the next appointee from Abe. And it was all of Abe's factions which backed Suga, which is why Ishiba never got the numbers for it. And Ishiba's kind of clearly, again, maybe he won't make another play for it because he doesn't want to swing and miss too many times if he knows he doesn't have the numbers. And it is really more about factions than popularity. The LDP leadership is decided by a combination of grassroots LDP members voting, which is worth about like 50% of the votes, as well as LDP representatives, who are the people in parliament. They all have these factions, which basically, so the case of Koizumi was an interesting one where he didn't have a very large faction or factional support, but he had such huge, overwhelming grassroots support that he was actually carried into being prime minister based on grassroots LDP support rather than national level factional support. But right now, you know, everything is much more aligned and the factions do control the grassroots as well. So, yeah, that's why Ishiba's probably not making a swing for it. But Ishiba would be the main challenger. And boom, Atomic Tom, you like pigeons. I'm glad you do. And we are up on time. We are a little bit over time, but I think I did pretty well tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you're enjoying the Olympics, and I hope you're staying safe, particularly if you're in Tokyo. Yeah, it sucks. It is hot. I've been running, but I've been running in the evenings, and it still has been pretty rough. I'm looking forward to getting my new shot, which will be, yeah, after the next show, I suppose. But definitely staying home at the moment. I am enjoying watching the sports, hoping that you're enjoying it and supporting your team. Support the athletes. I mean, I think definitely hate the you know, organizers and the politicians and all the BS around the Olympics, but I think the sports themselves and again the volunteers definitely deserve support. So yeah, everybody get into that. Bob Turner, Belarus Olympic drama at Tokyo Airport. I saw something being tweeted about that today, which I don't know the details of, but I did see that it looks like a Belarus athlete who criticized the team, and maybe the government is being forced onto a plane by the team. And yeah, maybe she's trying to claim asylum or something. I will look that up, Bob Turner. Thank you for that. Remember, as always, if you enjoyed the show and you enjoy me coming here and shooting the stuff every week as I do, please like. It really does help, and I do appreciate it. So yeah, like if you like. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I will be... Oh, whoops. We lost the screen. yeah, I've got nowhere to go. I am on self-imposed voluntary social responsibility lockdown, like everybody else, which means I could theoretically go to Roppongi anytime that I like. Well, except the ramifications wouldn't be governmental anyway. So although Japan allows people to be dickheads, don't be a dickhead. Be a good person. Take care of your family. Stay home. Stay safe. Stay posted. Follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with stuff during the week. And see you next week. Take it easy, everyone. Yeah, Lysander 45. Have a good week, you too. Okay, so boom. See you later. Like if you liked. Peace. Ending stream. Thanks, Shivers.